Welcome to the New Wealth Wave podcast hosted by Dr. Joaquin Wallace. We're diving deep into the intricate layers of the 7-stage generational wealth model to offer invaluable insights on legacy building, wealth accumulation and preservation, and financial growth across generations. I'm Dr. Joaquin Wallace, and this is the New Wealth Wave podcast. Hey, future wealth builders. This is Dr. Joaquin Wallace, host of the New Wealth Wave podcast, author of Generational Wealth Begins with Generational Knowledge, an Amazon bestseller. This has been an outstanding year for the New Wealth Wave podcast. First and foremost, we've reached 1,000 subscribers. So I want to thank each of you who subscribes to our content and who have shared our material as well. The fourth quarter has been instrumental in our growth, coupled with the release of my book. We're going to show you some of the highlights of 2025. Take a look. Guiding us through this powerful conversation is James Alexander, CFP partner at Edge Financial. This is his third time in the studio as well. He is a friend of the program. Glad to have him back. Started off the year in 2025 with him, came back in the second quarter. Now we're going to end the year with him as well. How do you use behavioral finance principles to help clients stay disciplined and avoid emotional reactions that can derail their long-term financial plans?
Going back to avoiding making mistakes, part of that is staying disciplined, which is easy to say, hard to do all the time. And so what I do is, if those listening, if you can visualize this, I'll draw a chart of the United States stock market, call it the S&P 500, over a long period of time, call it 20 years. And there's the ups and there's the downs, right? I'll say, let's pretend the next 20 years is this exact chart. When is the best time to get in? And people look, well, at the bottom, right? We want to buy low. When is the best time to quote unquote get out? And they're going to say at the top, right? Okay, how do you know when that's going to be the case? And how do you know when it's the bottom? Is it going to go lower than this? And it gets us thinking about, it's going to be next to impossible to time this thing. With the right strategies, we can be tactical, but we can't time the market. Then I have to remind them about that sometimes. But on that bottom, I'm going to say, okay, you know the best time is to take on more risk, whatever the case may be. Do we believe in the global growth of the United States economy? That's probably one of the most important questions we need to answer. If we believe that the world is going to grow, then this is why we're investing.
What common behavioral biases do you encounter with clients, and how do you help them overcome them to make sound financial decisions?
Probably the most common one is confirmation bias, which is I want it to be true, therefore I believe it to be true, therefore it must be true, and anyone that says anything else is wrong. And it all starts with the fact that I kind of want it to be true. And we're not going to talk politics today, but I'm going to give a story along these lines of, we know our new administration, our new president. If you are not a fan of that, you most likely have a confirmation bias that the economy is going to struggle over the next 4 years. And so what happens is you're going to go on your iPhone, you're going to say concerns about the Trump administration. And Apple is a very smart software device. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but what I do know is it knows that you think there's going to be concerns. And so it's going to keep sending you articles unbeknownst to you within all your apps around problems. And so it's going to confirm what you think to be true. Conversely, you think the Trump administration is going to be wonderful. You're going to say all the great things, and it's going to do the same thing on the other side. And so it is convincing you to be true when the fact of the matter is the president has very little impact on the overall outlook of stock earnings, which drives stock markets. They have some, but not as much as we are led to believe. So confirmation bias is a big one. I want to get out of debt, but every time I thought about money, it created a little angst for me. And I view money as fuel to allow us to accomplish what we want in life. I want more fuel for the accomplishments I had as I wrote them down. And so that aha moment to me was, I can do one of two things. I can lower my expenses, or I can increase my income. And let me be clear, there's no right or wrong answer, in my opinion, of you could lower your expenses, you could increase your income. Yes, I needed to be careful on my expenses, but I wanted to focus on increasing my income, not for any other reason that allowed me to accomplish certain things I wanted in life. So I wrote all those down, and in order to increase that income, I had to focus on myself and my skill set and be a sponge for information and learn from those who successfully did this. Nobody is agnostic to that. We can all create opportunity for ourselves depending on what we want. And that's the beauty of the world that we're in today compared to, say, 50 years ago. So my aha moment was, James, focus on yourself, focus on what you're passionate about, learn everything you can about it. And I'll preface maybe the final statement around macro patience. I needed to be patient with myself, but micro speed, day to day, learn as much as you can and don't stop until you're satisfied.
Today's episode features a powerful conversation with Dr. Gary Clement, a seasoned professional and more than 20 years in financial services. He's worked across discount brokers, wirehouses, and independent RIAs holding nearly every FINRA license imaginable. But beyond the credentials, he is a teacher, mentor, and advocate for making financial education real, engaging, and transformative. His philosophy aligns perfectly with the heart of my 7-stage generational wealth model, especially the stages of financial edification and walls in, walls out, where purpose meets practice and knowledge becomes legacy.
We're tempted to, because of our training, and encouraged to think that people are going to make good decisions, logical decisions, rational decisions if given enough information. Well, we know that we live in the real world, so that's not true. The major thing that I got out of that is that people are normal. And if people are normal, we need to begin to find ways to help them make good decisions. Given the fact that there are many ways that they're hardwired to make decisions that, I'm not going to say bad, but are suboptimal decisions.
I love how you phrase that. What's rational to that person may be irrational to me, but I need to know why it's rational to that person. Because once I have a better understanding, then my irrationality of it said, well, you know what? That is rational to them. And it's based upon their inherited financial narratives, their encoded financial behaviors, this thing that we call now our financial genetic code.
Personal finance is more personal than it is finances, meaning it's more about the behavior than it is about any numbers. So when people start to understand that, not only, again, do they understand their own behavior and understand why they are where they are, but now they've got a handle on how to help people move behaviorally from where they are to where they want to be. It's always about behavior. All the rest of the stuff is minor in comparison to helping somebody deal with their behavior. One of the things that people, again, don't always recognize is how much of their speech, language, and thinking around money is somebody else's. We all hear these things in our head. Money is the root of all evil. I'm not made of money. Money is not growing on trees. All of these kinds of things. And even though we may not even verbalize them, they're there. And until we can shine a light on them, they're creating a way that we are not really able to move forward because these things are going on in the background, like your own personal operating system. A lot of the information and a lot of the experience that they need to have is by going within. And we don't do enough of that. We go through the process of interviewing them and we look at what's real in terms of the numbers that are associated with where they are financially. But we don't think about how do we really get into this client's world and help them discover who they are, where they've come from, what's influenced them, and what's real about all of the things that really matter around financial planning, aside from the numbers. So I think we could certainly do a much better job of that. If you focus on your behavior before you get the money, then you stand a chance of making the right decisions to build wealth and hold on to wealth. Traditional financial literacy, they make a lot of assumptions. They're telling you about the numbers, they're telling you about strategies. But one of the things I always was bothered by with a lot of these books is that they assume that you got a certain amount of money. If you don't have a certain amount of money, then much of what is in there with regards to strategical things that you could do, they're not going to help you. So that's where this comes in that you got to really focus on your behavior before you get the money. People think that saving is not important. And I say, if you can't save, none of this other stuff matters. If you can't get yourself to spend less than you have coming in, nothing is going to move forward for you financially unless you get struck by lightning and bit by a dog in the same day, right? It's just not going to happen. So that's one thing that I think people don't really focus in enough on. We have the myth that if we make a lot of money, and this really gets to your question, if we make a lot of money, we're golden. It's not about the money you make. It's about the money you keep, regardless of how much you're really making. So that's the myth that I would like to bust immediately, if possible.
Joining me is Tyrone French, founder and owner of Tyrone French and Associates, with more than 34 years of experience as a personal finance coach, as an accredited financial counselor, and host of the Closing the Wealth Gap podcast. Tyrone has dedicated his career to empowering families and communities to take control of their financial futures and pass prosperity on to the next generation. Tyrone, welcome to the podcast.
Dr. Wallace, thank you for that intro. It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be a part of this podcast. Poverty mindset has to be unlearned. And the thing is, it breaks my heart to drive around in marginalized communities and to see, because I understand the visuals of it. I understand the false narratives that are being rehearsed inside of your head over and over again. That is, money is tight, money is scarce. I got to get 2 or 3 jobs in order to maintain where I used to be. But again, it's a poverty mindset. So to shift from that poverty mindset to the abundance mindset, where you begin to see the opportunities every day. First of all, the day itself is the opportunity for you to take one step and then another step and then another step. So it's the changing that poverty mindset that has to be corralled and ripped out and replaced with the abundant mindset. I came from a household that was struggling. I remember those colored food stamps, which you mentioned in the book, and going to the counter at the supermarket and being embarrassed, wanted my parents to pay as quickly as possible because I didn't want people to see that we were using food stamps. And fast forward to my adulthood. When I joined the Navy, I had a guaranteed paycheck coming in every single week. Based on my trauma, what I did not want to do was look poor. So the first thing I started doing was spending money on clothes, cars, jewelry. I wanted to have the illusion of prosperity and of wealth, even though I didn't have it. And so that grew old for me really fast because I had the style, but no substance. I was lucky enough to realize that when I was still in my early 20s versus hitting my 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s and realizing, hey, I was looking good, but going nowhere fast. So your book is a roadmap that articulates, hey, look, you need to get your mindset together before you start this journey, because the path that you're on right now is just not about you. It's about people that you haven't even experienced yet that's going to come behind you that you're going to one day call a loved one.
What was your aha moment that you said to yourself, you know what, I need to make a change in my life going forward? What was your aha moment?
I had gotten out of the Navy. I was working for McDonnell Douglas Aircraft Company in Long Beach, California. I was a quality assurance administrator, and I was making really, really good money at the time, but it was a demanding job. It was stressful. And I realized I had no leverage. And so I started reading this book. The author's name was Charles Gibbons, Wealth Without Risk. Well, I'm dating myself by, saying that title, but he was talking about multiple streams of income and leverage. And I realized I had neither. At that point, a paycheck, even though I was making really good money, it was singular. And if I wanted to increase my income, I had to increase my hours. And I didn't have enough hours in the day to increase my income to live the lifestyle that I thought I should be living.
So the book introduces the financial genetic code and inherited financial narratives, which explore how our past influences our financial present. How do you see these concepts showing up in the clients and communities you serve?
First of all, I do want to commend you on writing this book. This is a book that I think every consumer should have in their library. Every financial advisor that calls himself a financial advisor, that is serious about their trade and their profession, should read this book. Because again, a lot of clients have misconceived notions based on what wealth is and what it's going to do and how to even get started. But if they don't have the proper mindset, then they're dealing with a financial genetic code of having all this past trauma. It doesn't matter how much wealth you accumulate or how you begin to increase your income, you're going to sabotage yourself. A lot of times people look at the advisor and think, well, this person's really smart, or how did they get there? How did they get that knowledge? To be able to say, hey, there's a book out there that anybody can read that's really helped me to understand my finances and my situation based on my legacy, I think you should read this book. This book, it's not what most people think. Most people think when they look at a financial book and you're talking about wealth, you're looking at something that's a book that's really technical. That's not this book. this book breaks it down to whereas, in my opinion, anybody can understand these concepts. And especially being able to have a resource where they can tap into to get their questions answered, that's gold to me.
Future Wealth Builders, I hope you enjoyed those excerpts. The fourth quarter has been outstanding for us. As I mentioned earlier, we reached 1,000 subscribers and we're headed towards 2,000. 2025 is heading out the door. 2026 is right around the corner. And I thank each of you for subscribing to the New Wealth Wave podcast and also purchasing the book. As we head into 2026, we'll make sure we have the same content with professionalism as we've done thus far. Make sure you pick up the book as well. As we always say, generational wealth begins with generational knowledge. I'll see you on the next episode of the New Wealth Wave podcast. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the New Wealth Wave podcast, hosted by Dr. Joaquin Wallace. Our show is edited and produced by Ray Haycraft. To dive deeper into the world of financial wisdom and learn how to create your financial footprints, head to our website at www.drjwallace.com. For more updates and exclusive content, connect with us on social media by searching Dr. Joaquin Wallace. And if you have questions and comments, feel free to email us at thenewwealthwavepodcast@gmail.com. Remember, generational wealth begins with generational knowledge. And as always, thanks for listening. The content presented in this podcast is strictly for educational purposes and should not be taken as investment advice. The views and opinions expressed by our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the New Wealth Wave podcast and its host or producers. Listeners are urged to exercise discretion and judgment before making any financial or investment decisions. Always consult with a financial professional or advisor before taking any action based on the content of this podcast. If you're enjoying the New Wealth Wave podcast, we appreciate if you leave us a review. We're always open to topic suggestions and guest recommendations. Feel free to reach out to us directly with your thoughts and feedback. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the New Wealth Wave podcast.